Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. Well, maybe you don't know what time it is because we are wicked early this morning. It is 6:30 Eastern. Now, I need to tell you why we are wicked early this morning. We are wicked early because my partner here, Mark Hunter, is up, ready to go run a half marathon. Not just a half marathon, but a hilly half marathon. So Mark, I love this and I love that you're up doing this because I think if you really want to be successful in life, you got to look at all the aspects of your life. And you are dedicated to health, you are dedicated to family, you're there, with the whole family's there, you got the grandkids there, going to make a real event. So we're really proud of you today.
Yeah, it's only because my daughter talked me into running this with her. So yeah. So
Well,
anyway.
yeah. Well, the one thing that I have learned is that you can try to get men to do a lot of things and they say no, but if their daughters ask them, right over the edge they go,
It's
correct?
it was called the guilt complex, right? Hey, but we have got a great show. We're going to be talking about, are you and your sales language out of date? Ooh,
Yeah. I
wow.
I love
Yeah,
this topic.
yeah.
All right. Let me start the intro and we'll get going. Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell again, and it is time for Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to well sell logically. Now, before Mark tells you the details of what we're going to talk about today, and it is a good show, I love this topic. I like to tell you how the show works. Please, if you have questions, reach out to us. Send an email to Mark, send one to me, go to saleslogicpodcast.com because we feature you right here on the show. We cover a topic, we do a lightning round, and recommend a book. So, Mark, what's on tap for today?
Well, the topic is, are you and your sales language out of date? Before we get into that, let's talk about a question from Roger in Boise. He says, I'm in the insurance industry. I run a top producing team for a large carrier. And I do not have to tell you, we're dealing with some level of uncertainty in this industry. My team is doing well, very well, but feels like they're stuck in the dark ages. Lots of golf tournaments, been drinking, and have to see every client in person. I feel like I should push my team to evolve, but you can't argue with success. I think the 80s are calling. They're looking for their sales team back.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Oh, man, what a great question. And yes, here's the problem, right? I mean, his sales team's successful. They're hitting the numbers, but they're using really out of dated sales techniques. So let's just start right there. I mean, you do not have to completely let go of your old sales tactics. I mean, if things are working for you, keep doing them, but you need to keep evolving the sales strategy. So as a sales leader, you are spot on. But boy, you've got insurance, guys. This can be a difficult transition. What do you think, Mark?
Well, here's the deal. These insurance guys, they're living off the renewals. I mean, this sounds so typical. They've had these customers for years. They've had them. They just keep getting the renewals and it works. But here's the deal. You know what? These clients, sure, you show up, you want to play golf with them, they'll do that. But you know what? You don't have to. It is amazing. Hey, I don't need to see you as frequently as I have been. They're wanting to see you just because you've been giving it to them. Just cut the cord and say you're not. And you don't have to say you're doing it. You just stop doing it. You just stop showing up. I'm going to challenge the sales team as to whether or not they're out there really prospecting, because I have a feeling they're just taking care of existing clients 100% of the time because that's who they like playing golf with.
Well, I'm going to argue that even if they are taking care of existing clients, here's your risk. If you don't start to make some transitions, if you don't start to really talk about what we're doing that's out of date, is if an old sales strategy is that I show up, once a month, Mark and I play golf together, we go drink a few beers, and he's happy with me as a client. What happens if my competitor Mark knocks on Mark's door and he says, Mark, I've been looking at your company. I know these are the policies that you've got. Here are some other things that I think would be of value for you. And oh, by the way, we could bundle all that together and I could probably save you about a couple of $100. All of a sudden, my golf game is not as valuable. So you know, you have got to start to think like it isn't whether you're hitting the goals. Start to really dive in and ask whether your sales team is doing everything they need to do to hold on and deepen existing relationships. So, quite frankly, for any of us listening today, the first place that you need to test to see if your sales strategies are out of date is, are you getting business from your existing customers? If you're not getting business from your existing customers, it's a flag that it's time something is broken in the sales process. And I'll be quiet a minute, but I just want to say that it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's not that you're doing anything bad, but it's a flag. It goes, okay, something, if I'm not digging deeper there, the marketplace is shifting on me and I need to make a change.
Well, any business always has changes in their policies. There's additional things that they need, additional riders, additional amendments, changes in coverage, and so forth. This is true in any business. If you're dealing with existing clients, existing customers, and you're not really focused on their business, I think these guys are just focused on the golf game, and
Mm.
you're gonna lose it to a competitor. So you've got to make sure you are proactive in really understanding the business that they're in, the industry that they're in. And the title of the show is really, is your language out of date? I venture to say that those guys, their language is out of date because they haven't stayed tuned with who their clients' customers are. Because I'll tell you what, there's additional amount of business out there going downstream if you nurture your existing clients right, which I'm going to say they're not. But boy, they're probably hitting a long drive and really making some nice putts.
Yeah, their golf game is in
Yeah.
shape. So, the other thing is, I wonder if your sales goals are too low. I mean, if they're using those types of strategies, I'm really wondering if the sales goals are too low. And what I mean by that is, I was out in about a year ago. I was out in Salt Lake City working, and I'd done a speaking engagement. My husband was with me, and we went and played golf. Ironically, that afternoon, it was a Wednesday afternoon. It was the middle of the week, and we get paired up with these two very young guys. They were not old guys; they were two young guys. And finally, about the fourth hole, I said, "What are you doing out here? Like, how can somebody your age play golf on a Wednesday afternoon?" And they said, "We're pharmaceutical reps, and we hit our goal. We usually hit our goal about the first 15 days of the year." And I mean, of the month. And all I came back and I wrote a blog about it. And I said, that sales managers, their goals are too low. I mean, if somebody can hit their goal by the 15th of the month. So I think a sales goal is an out of date sales word, a sales language. I think it isn't about sales goals. It is about, are we doing what we need to do to get our message out in the market share and handle as many customers as we need, as we can handle, and as people as we can help. I mean, you know, those two salesmen that I was playing golf with were selling to a sales goal. They were not reaching out to help people solve a problem.
There's so much truth in what you said that, and you know what? There's a lot of industries that are in that space. I'm going to say this is the challenge that Roger in Boise is having, that their numbers are too low. Here's a question I'm going to ask Roger. Roger, what are the metrics that you've set for your team? I have a feeling that you have a goal. Just hit this number, this amount of policy renewals, this amount of business. What's the performance metric? Yesterday, I was coaching a salesperson. Great new organization, and we're working on the metrics. What are the performance metrics that they have to achieve every week in terms of the number of calls made, the number of appointments set, the number of meetings, et cetera, et cetera? That's where I think they need to be putting some more focus, not on how long is their drive. Are they, that's just wrong. And again, it's because they're caught up in yesterday's language being just make the number. Just, I don't care how you make the number, just make the number. Wrong. Go for performance metrics. That's going to change things dramatically.
Yeah, the other challenge that you've got is typically when I find a sales team using old sales strategies like, playing golf, drinking beer, hanging out with people in person, is you've also got an older customer. And there's a couple of things happening there, Roger. Number one is your new sales team members, the ones that you bring on to grow, they're not going to be able to grow business exactly the same way. Like, some of my older salespeople, I might leave alone. I remember when I got into banking, we took over a savings and loan. And I had one guy that had been sitting in the same chair for 32 years. And the business just walked in the door to him. He knew enough people in the community that he never set the world on fire, but he never missed his sales goal. He was 59 years old when I inherited him. He was 6 years from retirement. I was not going to put my time and my energy there. He hit his goal. It was fine. But my biggest challenge was my younger salespeople didn't understand why they had to go out the door and dig business. And I wasn't forcing Gary to do that. So you've got to revamp. I mean, I'm even wondering, do you have a sales process? And if you have a sales process, you can hold everybody accountable. We hold people accountable to a goal, and you need to hold people accountable to a behavior. And the reason I say that is because let's assume that I set a goal to lose 10 pounds by June, but I really need to lose 30 pounds. Well, if I work the behaviors and by June I lose 15 pounds, that's great. It wasn't, oh, I lost 10 pounds and stop. I mean, goal is just something, it's just setting you in the right direction. I always feel goals are something, that's an out of date sales language. There's something to blow by. So, you really need to lay down a set of behaviors and not work towards a sales goal, but work towards those sets of behaviors.
See, and again, that's where the language is messed up because we're focused in the wrong thing. And Gary, you took him over, when he was 59 years of age. I would imagine his clients kind of were very typical to his age. As
Yes,
he retired, his clients were going to probably
exactly.
wind down their businesses. See, we attract who we are. So when we think about this, when we talk about this from a language perspective and everything, it is amazing how we have to be careful because how we talk, who we talk to represents the clients, represents the customers we're going to get. Now, I'm going to go back to Roger in Boise. I'm going to challenge Roger in Boise. Roger, I want you to set this metric with your customers. Do we understand our clients' customers? And what are the needs that our clients' customers have? And how can we serve them? The metric is to have meetings with your clients' customers because there's a tremendous amount of additional business to be had. If you've got such great relationships because you're playing golf with these guys, guess what? Man, they're going to be able to introduce you to their customers. Make it happen.
Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about what are some other sales language that you feel is out of date?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of language, and that is just how we measure things, how we look at things, and the analogies we use. I caught you earlier. You happened to use, and I know you did it very intentionally. You said the two salesmen that were on the course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and I know you said that intentionally because you were wondering if I was going to catch it.
No, I
Because when I
didn't. I did. Well, that's very nice of you, but I didn't.
Oh wow, I was going to let you off the hook. So there
Yeah.
you go. But it is amazing how the language that we use, and so many times, it's just in the pictures that we paint, the stories that we tell. Language. But here's where the language really begins to change. Are we tuned into what are the objectives of the organization, and are we using their language? It's not what we think. It's not how we sell. It's how the customers want to receive it. That's where we need to have our focus. So we have to be using our customers' language. What are the terms that they use in their industry? That's where we got to be focused on.
Yeah. I'll tell you a big one that I think is way out of date and it's still used all the time, but is the value proposition. I really do. I think that is an old, when somebody says, what's your value proposition? My problem with value proposition is my value proposition is about me. And I think the term that we need to move value proposition to is relevancy. It isn't about you asking what value you can add to the customer, because the greatest value I can add to the customer may not be what is most relevant to them in the moment. I'll give you a great example. I was selling to a company last week, and the greatest value I can bring to them, the biggest value is, in all honesty, they are in serious danger. They badly need a succession plan. And I need to go in there and do that. But they are really, really weak. They're having a lot of churn at the lower leadership level. They're burning talent at that lower leadership level. That's what the CEO is on fire about. So I'm going to go in and do some work with them at the lower leadership level. My value proposition would have been something that I thought I could bring value to the customer. Relevancy is where they believe you can add value, and value proposition I think is out of date.
I love that. And it's the same thing with features and benefits. I mean, again,
Mm,
the 80s are calling, they want their churn back. It's all about the outcomes. It's all about the outcomes we create, features and benefits. Who really cares? Because again, you go to any sales meeting, go to any organization, and what are they focused on? They're featured. They're focused on the product features.
right.
And oh well, we'll talk benefits. No, I could care less about benefits. Because when you're thinking benefits, you're thinking benefits to me. I want this very specific. This comes back to relevancy, the relevancy to that individual customer. When we zero in on that individual customer and understand where their business is at, it's amazing at how much more specific we become. The other piece that is outdated, and and people haven't caught up on this. It's real quick, and this is the demo. The need to do
Oh,
a
that's
demo.
such a good
Oh,
one.
false, 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 false. Because what happens when we do the demo is we're just showing them a YouTube video. I mean, basically, okay, it may not be a YouTube video, but they could get it on a YouTube video. They could get it anywhere else. We have to make sure that 100% of our focus is focused on the relevancy to the customer. And that means that's the only piece we're talking about. If it's not relevant to them, we're not talking about it. And 90% of a demo is not relevant to them.
That's such a good one. Here's another one that may be a little bit controversial, but I was thinking about this the other day. Somebody asked me if I cold call, and I said, kind of give me a moment to sort of think about that. I said because I do. I definitely reach out to prospects that I've never ever talked before. I said, but I don't call it cold calling because I reputation build first. I mean, I really, or I make some form of connection with that cold call, meaning that Mark may not necessarily give me a referral, but if he worked in an industry I want to call in and I have a testimonial from him, I would use that testimonial to get that cold prospect comfortable with who I am. So this cold call, like this week on LinkedIn, I don't know why I got spammed so much, but I must have about 20 or 30 in there where people connected with me. And I connect with anybody. I absolutely anybody. I never get selective in that. And people immediately started selling me right away. And there was nothing warm or nothing connecting. Like I had no connection with them at all. So I don't know exactly how to say that, but I feel like the traditional cold call is dead, but we still cold call, but you have to do it in a way that makes some level of connection.
It's a warm call, and that is even the right term, because what we're doing is we're focusing. Because here's the deal: if I know I can help you, because you match my ICP, my ideal customer profile, if I know I can help you, I have an obligation to reach out to you. That's what you're doing. You know these are people, you don't have a relationship with them, but you know you can help them. So you have an obligation to reach out to them. To me, that is just what you're saying. You're coming in first with the relationship. You begin creating that connection. Because again, our reputation arrives before we do. So when you reach out to somebody, chances are, you know what? They're probably Googling you, right? And they're looking to see, what does Google say about you? Here's an interesting twist. We can no longer go in and tell the customer what we want them to know. They already know about us before we arrive. And if they don't know about us before we arrive, they know about us within 5 seconds of us having a conversation with them, because they're multitasking, checking us out on the internet. So, hey, that whole idea of cold calling, you bet it's dead, bury it, gone. What else do you think
Um,
is old language?
well, I was gonna say this, that it's I think if you believe you're selling a product or service, you're out of date. And the reason is because just like you said, I can sit here in my office and I can Google until my heart is content. I can buy anything I want to. There isn't one thing. I mean, let's use insurance. Let's use Roger as a great example. There's nothing he's selling that I can't buy online by myself,
Yes,
right? And
right.
so since I can buy it online by myself, I don't need I don't need a salesperson to buy the product. What I need a salesperson to do is understand my industry better than I do and solve the problems that I've got, and then reposition their products to solve my problem.
See, it's not what we sell at all. What we sell is totally irrelevant.
Mhm.
It's why we sell, because we want to help the customer. We want to help the customer. That this is where our total focus has to be. Because if we're not dialed in on that, you're right. The customer does, all these surveys, all these studies that the customer is 68, 70, 72% of the way through the buying process before they want to talk to a salesperson. Spot on. And you know what? It's only going to get higher with AI and everything else. So we have to be able to create a conversation. Go back to what you said earlier. You're making these calls because you're creating a relationship. So critical, so important. That's how we ultimately become relevant. Again, new term, to be able to help them accomplish an outcome that they may or may not know they have. But through our connection, we're going to be able to make it happen for them. Good.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we have got to get you on the trail, and
Yes.
we are
Yes.
burning time. What is the
Yes.
what's the book for today?
The book is The Market Ownership Method: 7 Principles and 1 Profitable Plan for Higher ROI Clients by Sonia Dumas. Hey, I checked this book. Out. This book mirrors how you and I sell. I love this book. I love it. It complements
Sonia Dumas is a powerhouse. I mean, just you talk about somebody who makes you think differently about the sales process. This is Sonia Dumas. She is a really incredible. I would go onto Amazon, check out the book. It opened my eyes to a lot of things that like you said, Mark, I was doing them, but I was doing them unconsciously. And once I put that to it, it made me even go in and dig deeper. So I would definitely check that out and follow Sonia Dumas.
Yeah, and the book has only been out about 8 months or so. So it's. I mean, as I got into it, I go, whoa, this mirrors us. And you're right, subconsciously, this brings it to the conscious forefront. Hey, are you ready for the lightning round? Okay,
I am.
Audience. I did not pick the lightning round. Meredith.
I know. I picked the lightning round. I'm so impressed with the fact that you're doing this half marathon that I thought we needed to highlight you. So what's up?
Okay. In honor of Mark, top 10 ways to get across the finish line.
Number 1, if you want to get across the finish line, you have got to focus on getting in shape before you ever start the race.
Number 2, be disciplined. Once you set the plan of attack, you go. You do not deviate. Just like we're doing this show this morning, a little bit early to accommodate, to make it happen.
Yeah. Number 3, focus on the behaviors and the actions. Do not focus on the results. Look at this, Mark. Natalie got up to wish you good luck.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Natalie. 4, stay focused around people who are doing it with you. For me, it's my daughter. She's been training with me, and we're doing this together.
Yeah. I would say focus on the progress. Really celebrate every mile that you run, and take the time to say, I've done a good job. I feel good.
And that is so smart. It is so true. It is not the destination. It is the journey. And if you can't enjoy the journey, then why are you doing it? We get across the finish line and multiple finish lines by just enjoying the journey and seeing what happens along the way.
Yeah. I would say that what you want to do too is go understand your why. What's motivating you to do this, and focus on that why. I mean, Mark, I would venture you're doing this because you want to spend time with your daughter. I mean, you've got a great family there, this weekend. Your why isn't this finish line. It's being with your family, doing something and focusing on your health.
My why for this, if you go back to that goal that I set earlier this year, is to run 1,000 miles this year.
Yeah.
And so if you stop and think about it, when you set a big goal, there are small goals along the way. So this happens to be one of the smaller goals along with the bigger goal. So always, when you're looking to get across the finish line, put yourself into the context of the long-term picture, the big picture. Hey, why don't you share one more? I'll share one more. We'll close it out.
Yeah. And if you want to get across the finish line, have a big reward at the end. Have something that you're excited and you're motivated about that keeps you focused on getting there.
I'm still looking for what that reward is. So anyway, hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we said has earned you $1, consider telling a friend about our show, because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right, we will see you next week. Good luck, Mark, and we'll let everybody know the results of this race and the big medal that Mark wins. We'll see you next week, right back here next week, 8 a.m. Eastern, another episode of Sales Logic.